The broken gift ship glided silently into the lavender skies of Drelia, its long, curved frame casting a jagged shadow over the palace gardens below. Tall spires shimmered in the distance, wrapped in blue moss and glowing insects. The palace guard stood still, emotionless. As the ramp lowered and the offering stepped out, she was small for her kind, slender, pale, with faint silver lines glowing beneath her skin. Her name was Lear, and though she walked like a royal, she had no real standing. She had been chosen not for her status, but because she was expendable. The youngest daughter of a disgraced noble. A symbol of apology from the Drellian High Council to the human delegation. A joke disguised as diplomacy. The humans had arrived on the edge of the galaxy a few cycles ago. Nobody took them seriously. They were too soft, too emotional, too fragile. But somehow they had survived, and worse, thrived. Their colonies were growing. Their alliances were spreading. Still, Drellians considered them beneath contempt. So, the council sent Lear as a gift bride to a human outpost, a custom meant to mock, not bond. It was said the human assigned to her was a war orphan named Jace. He had no title, no lineage, just a haunted past and strange eyes that seemed to see too much. Lyr had trained herself to be emotionless. Drellian culture praised cold logic and detachment. But the moment she stepped into the outpost's dusty halls, she felt it something warm in the air. The scent of baked roots and firewood. Human laughter echoing from nearby rooms. The world felt alive, like it breathed around her. It unsettled her. Then she saw him. Jay stood at the far end of the corridor. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sunburn. Skin and eyes the color of rain clouds before a storm. He did not bow. He did not even speak at first. He simply looked at her, as if trying to understand her soul. "You don't want to be here," he said softly. It wasn't a question. She blinked. No one had ever asked her how she felt. Not once. "It's not your fault," he added, stepping aside. "But you're here now, and we share food here, not orders." His words confused her. No ceremony, no control, no mockery. Just quiet respect. It was the first crack in the wall she had built inside herself. The days that followed were slow and strange. The human outpost was rough and full of life. People shared stories at dinner. They laughed and argued and cried openly. Even Jace. He worked the land during the day, his hands always scarred and calloused, but he treated the soil like it mattered. He planted things. He mended things. He listened. Lyr had never known a world where listening was more powerful than commanding. Tried to keep her distance. She reminded herself this was a mission of humiliation, that he was beneath her. But every night, when Jace made space for her at the table, when he handed her a mug of warm liquid and asked how her day was, something inside her shifted. The conflict came quietly. The Drellian monitors sent updates to her mind chip, reminding her of her duty to gather intelligence, to report human weakness, to ensure this joke ended in failure. But the longer she stayed, the more she questioned who the weak ones truly were. Jace never asked about her past. He only spoke of the stars, the soil, and the strange peace he found in silence. One night, as the red moons hung low in the sky, he whispered, "You know, you're more than what they said you were." She turned her face away, hiding the tears she didn't understand. Something about this human wasn't just strange, it was powerful. Not in strength or science, but in the way he healed what he touched without even meaning to. But the monitors would not wait forever. And soon, the council would call her back, and she would have to choose. The seed of change wind on the human outpost was different. It carried scents of wood smoke, iron, and growing things. Lear stood by the garden fence at dawn, her hands folded tightly. Beneath her bare feet, the earth felt warm, alive, not like the polished crystal floors of the palace, This ground pulsed with quiet energy. She watched Jace bend over the soil, planting root bundles. His hands were dirty, cracked, strong, yet gentle. He pressed each bundle into the ground like he was tucking in a child. She didn't understand. He fought no battles. He claimed no glory. Yet the respect others showed him came without fear. It came from trust. A soft voice broke the silence. Want to try? Jace held out a bundle toward her. His eyes met hers, not demanding, just inviting. She hesitated. Drellians did not dig. They built above, never below. To touch dirt was to lower oneself, but something inside her whispered, what if they were wrong? She reached out. Her fingers brushed his. She took the bundle, knelt, pressed her hands into the warm soil. For the first time in her life, she did something not out of duty, but choice. Later that night, the air turned cold. They sat near the central fire, surrounded by humans from all castes, former soldiers, builders, cooks, even children with prosthetic limbs and glowing eyes. One girl sat beside Lear, offering her a woven bracelet. All looked at it, confused. Why give me this? Because you smiled at me, the girl said simply, and you made Papa laugh. Across the fire, Jace chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't remember laughing, he muttered. The girl beamed. You did. Right before she said your boots look like crushed beetles. The humans roared with laughter. Lear blinked in shock. She hadn't meant to joke. She just said what she observed. But their joy wrapped around her like a blanket. That night, as she lay on the soft cot in her shared quarters, her thoughts spun. She reached up and touched the bracelet on her wrist. A small thing, fragile, but someone had made it for her. Without expectation. Without strategy. The monitors pulsed again in her head, reminding her of her mission. She ignored them, but the conflict grew. A few days later, a shuttle arrived from the Drellian envoy. 2 officers stepped out, faces hard as steel. They bowed, not to the humans, but to her. Princess Lear, the taller one said coldly, you are summoned. Princess. The word struck her like a blade. She hadn't heard it since before her family's disgrace. You are to return immediately. The humans have served their purpose. Jace appeared behind her. His hands were steady, his face unreadable. Is she a prisoner? He asked. The officer smirked. She is property of the council. Lear stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. I came here under orders, but I stayed by choice. The officers glanced at each other. You will return, one said, or we will take you. The tension thickened. Jace didn't move, but the people around the fire rose slowly. They didn't shout, they didn't threaten. They just stood, silent. Present. It was enough. The officers stepped back. You have 1 cycle, the taller one said. Make your goodbyes. When the shuttle vanished into the sky, Lear turned to Jace. What happens now? He looked at her with those storm-colored eyes. We live, he said softly, until someone tells us we can't. That night, under the stars, she whispered to herself for the first time, maybe I am not broken. Maybe I was just planted in the wrong place. The quiet before the storm cycle passed like a falling leaf too fast, yet full of color. Each morning, Lear helped Jace in the fields. Her hands, once delicate and unscarred, grew rough from work. She no longer flinched at dirt beneath her nails. She didn't notice the stares anymore when she laughed or spoke out of turn. The humans accepted her, not as a guest, not as a symbol, but as one of their own. And Jace. He had become more than just a figure in her story. He was the rhythm of her days, the calm in her thoughts. Sometimes they spoke of nothing, just shared space. And sometimes, when the stars hung low and the world grew quiet, they spoke of pain. He told her about the war, about losing his family in a skyfall attack, about growing up alone, digging graves before he learned to plant food. "You're not like them," she once whispered as they sat by the stream. "You don't carry hate." He didn't look at her, just skimmed a pebble across the water. "Hate never fed anyone," he said. "But hope might." Those words stayed with her, yet beneath the peace, the threat still loomed. The council would not be patient forever. They had summoned her, and she had ignored them. The next message came without warning, a sharp pulse in her mind, searing and cold. Final notice. Failure to return will be considered treason. You belong to the high caste. The words cut deeper than she expected, not because of fear, but because she realized something terrifying. She no longer felt like she belonged to them. Later that night, she sat alone in the storeroom, wrapping fresh cloth around harvested roots. Her fingers trembled slightly. Behind her, footsteps echoed. Jace entered, carrying 2 cups of steamberry tea. He handed her one and leaned against the wooden frame. "You're quiet tonight," he said. She stared at the cup. The warmth seeped into her hands. "They called me again," she said softly. "They said I was theirs." Jace didn't speak right away. "Do you believe that?" he finally asked. She shook her head. "I did. Once. Now, I don't know who I am anymore." He sat beside her. Not too close. Just near enough that she felt steady. "You're Lear," he said. "You can be more than what they made you." Her eyes met his, searching, doubting, hoping. And then something shifted, not in words, not in grand gestures. But in a quiet moment where he reached out, took her hand and simply held it. His touch was gentle, grounding. For a Drellian, such closeness was rare. Forbiddance, even. But for her, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. And in that silence, in that closeness, something began to grow. Not just affection. But a decision, a choice that would change everything. The next morning, she walked into the center of the outpost. The humans gathered as she raised a communicator stone and smashed it against the ground. Shards of glowing crystal scattered. Jace looked at her with wide eyes. The others stared. She spoke loudly, clearly. "I will not go back. This is my place now, my choice." A silence followed. Then applause, quiet at first, then growing. Not loud like triumph, but steady like respect. She had made her stand, but in the shadows beyond the ridge, something else had noticed. Eyes that glowed violet, machines that did not breathe. Watchers sent by the council. They had seen her defiance, and they would not stay silent for long. Hunted under starlight, night fell faster than usual. A strange stillness wrapped around the outpost like a warning. The stars, usually sharp and steady, flickered uneasily behind thin clouds. Jace felt at first an ache in his chest, like before. A storm. He stood on the outer ridge, eyes scanning the darkness. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but instincts never left. Loir stood beside him. Her silver markings pulsed faintly beneath her skin, reacting to something unseen. She looked out into the dark with narrowed eyes. "They're close," she whispered. "They're already here." He turned to her. "You're sure?" She nodded. "They never forgive disobedience. They never leave loose ends." Down below, the outpost still buzzed with life, children playing, builders repairing a broken solar wing, laughter rising from the dining hall. No one knew what was coming. Lyr wanted to scream, to warn them, to run, but Jace reached for her hand and held it firm. "Then we get ready," he said calmly, "and we protect what's ours." They didn't sleep that night. Instead, they moved quietly through the outpost, preparing. They sealed weak points. They spread silent warnings. And they gathered everyone at dawn. "We are being watched," Lear told them, standing before the Fire pit, her voice steady. And soon, they'll come. Not to talk, not to listen. They will come to take me back. And they will punish anyone who stands in their way. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. But no one stepped away. An old woman with a metal leg stepped forward. Then let them come, she said. We faced worse. A former pilot spoke up. She belongs here, not with those tyrants. One by one, they nodded. Even the children stood taller. Jase turned to Lear, his voice low. You've changed. Them, without even trying, she shook her head slowly. No. I just reminded them who they already were. That night, the sky split. A ship descended from the clouds, black and silent, shaped like a blade. No sound, no warning. It landed beyond the ridge, just out of view, but they all felt it. Fear rippled through the camp, but it didn't break them. Instead, they gathered together, side by side. Waiting. From the shadows came 6 Drellian enforcers, tall, cloaked, their faces hidden by glowing masks. Weapons hung at their sides. Behind them, a Drellian commander stepped forward. His voice was smooth and cold. You've had your fun, Lear, he said. Now come home. She stood still, unblinking. This is my home. He laughed softly. You think these creatures can protect you? Jay stepped up beside her. We're not here to protect her, he said. We're here to stand with her. The commander's eyes narrowed. So be it. The enforcers moved forward, but not with weapons drawn. Not yet. They scanned the crowd, analyzed positions, waiting for the order. Then, without warning, the commander raised his hand. The outpost lights flickered and died. A flash, a scream. Then chaos. But the humans were ready. They had built traps, lines of defense, systems powered by backup cores. And most of all, they had each other. Lyr fought beside Jace, using training she had once buried. Her movements were precise, elegant, full of controlled rage. Jace moved like water, quiet, fast, striking only when needed. They weren't trying to win a war. They were trying to survive a message. After a brutal few minutes, the enforcers retreated, stunned by resistance they had never expected. The commander stared at them, wounded. Pride in his voice. You've made your choice. The council will erase this place from the maps. He turned and vanished into the shadows. Silence returned. But something inside the outpost had changed forever. They had not just defended their home. They had declared themselves. As dawn broke, Lear stood with Jace on the ridge again. They'll come back, she said quietly. Then we'll be ready, he replied, and in her heart, for the first time, she didn't feel like a pawn. She felt like a seed that had finally grown into something strong. Roots in the ash days passed, but the silence left behind by the attack felt louder than any battle. The outpost still stood, but it was bruised. Walls were cracked, storage pods destroyed, and one of the water purifiers had been scorched during Sinba. The retreat. 3 people were hurt. No one died, but everyone carried the weight of what almost happened. Lyr walked through the ruins at sunrise, dragging her fingers across scorched metal and blackened earth. The smoke had cleared, but the scent of fear still clung to the wind. She had never meant for this. She had only wanted a choice, a voice, a life. Now people were paying the price for her freedom. Jace found her kneeling by the garden beds. Many of the crops had been crushed by enforcers during the chaos. She was replanting them one by one. You should rest, he said softly. She didn't stop digging. I need to fix what I've broken, she whispered. He knelt beside her. You didn't break it, he said. They did, but we're still here. That matters. She paused. Looked at him. They'll come again. Next time, stronger. The council doesn't just give up, Jace nodded. I know. What if we can't stop them? His reply was simple. Then, we show them we're not afraid. The humans worked together, rebuilding faster than anyone expected. Broken walls became stronger. Damaged systems were repaired using scraps from old shuttles. Children carried water. Elders rewired circuits. Even the wounded helped where they could. But beneath the hard work, worry still lingered. Then, something unexpected arrived. A message. Not from the Drellians, from another human outpost one thought abandoned years ago. The transmission was faint and glitchy, but the words were clear enough. We heard what happened. We're coming. You won't stand alone. Lear's heart raced at other humans, other colonies. They were watching, listening. Jace smiled as he read the message. They're finally waking up. That night, as the stars shimmered above the repaired towers, Lear stood before the community once again. I came here as a joke, she said, a symbol of mockery. But you showed me that I am more than what I was trained to be. You gave me a home. She paused, breathing slowly. I can't promise safety. Not from what's coming, but I can promise this: I will not run. Not again. And if they want to destroy this place, they will have to go through me. Cheers rose. Not wild, not foolish, but steady. Grounded. They were no longer just surviving. They were planting roots. Far above the planet, beyond the red moons. The Drellian War Council watched in silence. The commander who had led the failed attack knelt before the elders. She has turned them, he said. They follow her now. One of the elders hissed, then erased them. But another, older voice spoke from the shadows. No, not yet. We must understand what makes them follow. What makes her so dangerous? In the dark of space, new ships began to stir. Warships. But also something else. Something the humans and Lear had not yet seen. Something that would not only test their strength, but their very humanity. The test of humanity. Sky turned red at dusk. Not from sunset, but from the glow of engines. A fleet of Drellian warships had broken through orbit, their sleek bodies blotting out stars. Dozens of them. Too many for a small outpost to fight alone. But they didn't attack. Not yet. Instead, they hovered in silence, watching, waiting. In the command hall, Lear stared at the blinking lights on the map board. Each one marked a ship capable of turning their home into ash. They're not firing, Jace said, confused. No, Lear whispered. This isn't war, it's judgment. Hours later, a transmission came through. No threats. No weapons. Just a voice, calm, ancient, cold. You have chosen exile, betrayal, but we are not here for blood. We are here to witness. Jace frowned. Witness what? Lear's breath caught in her throat. They're testing us, she said. They want to prove humans aren't worthy of freedom. They want me to break, to show that I've become weak. She stepped away from the console, anger rising like fire in her chest. They're not here to destroy me. They're here to destroy what I've built, to turn my choice into shame. Jay stepped closer. Then we show them what you've built is stronger than their pride. The next day, strange crafts landed around the outpost. Small, unarmed, silent. From each one, a figure emerged. Drellian observers, wrapped in black and silver, emotionless and cold. They did not speak. They did not touch. They just watched. They watched how humans treated each other. How they argued. How they forgave. How they laughed after pain. Wire walked through the outpost with her head held high. She explained how they worked, how they grew. Food, how they voted on choices, how children were raised by everyone, how kindness was not weakness, but a weapon of healing. One observer followed her silently. Finally, it asked a single question. Do you regret your choice? She looked up at the mountains beyond the ridge, then at Jace, laughing with a group of children. Then at the sky, "No," she said. "I regret how long it took me to make it." But the test wasn't over. A storm came 3 nights later, a real one, sudden, brutal, natural. Lightning ripped across the sky. Winds tore at the rooftops. Water crashed through the fields. The purifier collapsed. Homes flooded. And still, the observers did not move. They only watched. Lyr and Jace moved fast, helping to carry supplies, shelter the injured, hold the walls together. She shouted orders, not like a princess, but like someone who had earned their place. She helped a mother carry her child through waist-deep water. She wrapped cloth around a boy's bleeding leg. And when Jace slipped and was nearly crushed by a falling tower panel, she reached him just in time, lifting the beam with a scream born not of power but love. By dawn, the storm had passed. So had the observers. They left without speaking. The crafts lifted into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. Lyr stood on the rooftop, soaked and shivering, unsure of what would come next, until another message came. Evaluation complete. Strength confirmed. Choice respected. She read the message out loud. Jace put a hand on her shoulder. "What does that mean?" She turned to him, eyes full of tears. "It means they're leaving us alone." The humans cheered, not with the joy of a battle won, but with the quiet pride of dignity earned. Lyr had passed the test, not by fighting, but by living. By showing that humanity wasn't a weakness. It was a force the galaxy had never learned to measure. The child of 2 worlds. Months passed. No more warships appeared. No more threats came from the stars. The Drellian Council had gone silent, unwilling to admit defeat, yet unwilling to strike again. They had seen something they didn't understand. Something they feared, not weapons, not numbers. But unity, resilience, love. And in the heart of it all, Lyr had changed, not just in the way she spoke or worked or laughed, but in her soul. Where once she felt hollow, now she felt full. She was no longer a symbol of shame. She was the root of something new. On a clear morning, the sky was blue and wide, birds singing from the edges of solar panels. Lyr stood by the garden, hands resting on her growing belly. Jace knelt in the soil nearby, planting young stems beside the older ones. He looked up at her, smiling. "You should rest," he said for the 100th time. "I'm not made of glass," she replied, though her back ached and her feet were swollen. Still, she smiled too, because this pain, this change, it meant something was coming, something they had created together. A child, part human, part single quotes RELLIN. A symbol of everything the council had tried to crush, a living answer to their cruelty. As her belly grew, so did the outpost. Humans from nearby colonies began to visit. Some stayed. They brought tools, stories, new ways of doing things. And slowly, the outpost became more than a village. It became a beacon. Even a few Drellian defectors came quietly, cautiously. They had heard the stories. They had seen the proof. They came not to rule, but to learn. And Lyr welcomed them, not with bitterness, but with the same kindness she had once received. On a warm night, the stars glittering above, Lyr gave birth beneath the old observation tower. It was not silent. She screamed. Jace cried. The midwives shouted orders. The generator flickered, but after hours of pain, sweat, and fear, a cry filled the room. Their child was born. Small, fragile, eyes wide and strange gray, like Jace's, but with silver threads dancing in the pupils. Lyr held the baby close, breathing hard. "She's perfect," Jace whispered, voice shaking. Lyr looked down at the child and whispered words in both Drellian and human tongue. "You are the proof that 2 broken things can make something whole." When word of the birth spread, visitors came from distant places, some human, some not. They brought gifts, knowledge, seeds, music. They didn't bow. They didn't worship. They simply came to witness. They called the child many things: Peaceburn, Lightlink, Bridgeblood. But Lear and Jace gave her one name: Hope. In the years that followed, the outpost became a city, not one of steel and towers, but one of harmony. The garden grew into a farm. The school was built with wood and solar glass. And Lear, once sent as a joke, now led not as a queen, but as a mother, a teacher, a symbol of choice. And whenever their daughter asked why she had both silver and sun in her veins, Lear would kneel and say, because once a frightened girl was sent away by people who thought they were powerful, but instead of breaking, she found love, and that love made you. Above them, the stars continued to burn. Quiet. Watchful. And in their silence, respect. The galaxy had learned something from the humans, something it had never expected. Sometimes the greatest power is not to conquer, but to care.